Greetings, magical mages and spiritual sages. This is Age of the Mage podcast, and we're on episode 49. Today, we're going to continue to give some overviews of the one of the magical archetypes. And we've been talking about magical archetypes. They are a way that we function when we use our magic, or when we find that we are calling out to spirit or soul. We find that oftentimes we have preferences for what we do and how we do it. And we can take for granted that everybody works the way we do, but that's not true, is it? We have so many different individuals that we're all unique unto ourselves, and we can start having some fun with finding out who we really are. You know, the old saying of know thyself, and how important that really is. So I've developed this process of looking at it ourselves and kind of putting together our entire magical persona. And some of these exercises are imaginative, and you really rely a lot on intuition and visualization. And others are just more along the lines of observation. I would say archetypes fall under that, because you're able to see very often how your archetype does, because it's basically a function. It's what you do, what the process is that you do. And you're able to look at your life and say, oh, I really have a lot of that archetype in me, because that's how I am. That's how I operate, you know. So this one is fairly easy to grasp and recognize in yourself. And there are 9 of these, and they are the warrior, the healer, the guardian, the sage, the commander, the oracle, the keeper, the builder, and the weaver. And we very often find that we have a preference for 1 to 2, 3, 4 of these types of styles, and we usually like to do one or two of these more often than not. And so that's kind of the fun of learning about them and finding out more, and say, hey, where do I fit in, and how do I use my magic, and why? What motivates me to use it, and what am I drawn to do when I use magical techniques or spiritual powers? Well, today we're going to go to the third one, which is the guardian. And we have been talking quite a bit to the guardians and protectors out there. Just a few weeks ago, I had kind of an inspiration come in during the night that I was to call for the guardians, and to put out a call for guardians, protectors, and those of you who feel aligned with that kind of power and that kind of purpose and service, to see if you're interested in finding us and meeting and talking a bit more, because I have now had a few weeks to think about it, and I see that those of you who carry this energy of protection and New Earth guardianships are really here to help us lay the foundation for the magical work that's going to be happening. And you not only protect Earth and feel a great, link to overall areas and protecting certain kinds of systems and things, but you are very eager and willing to help others who would like to begin to work in magical teams. And so you bless these teams with your presence and your protection, and it's a vital role. And so that is what we're going to talk about today. And I'll just read a little bit here from our overview about guardians. Guardians share the warrior's traits of strength, battle worthiness, and devotion to those they protect. However, guardians prefer to work their magic by implementing defensive and protective shields rather than by charging headlong into battle. Although they're prepared and willing to fight in order to protect those in their care, they focus more on protective and blocking measures than on assertive attack strategies. Great guardians often assume the attitude of the male lion watching over his pride, or the giant grizzly mother bear willing to guard her brood with her life. While they don't seek out trouble, they're easily roused, and they're ready for combat if perceived threats enter their home territories. Guardians are generally strong, with an extra dose of endurance built in. They stand firm in their convictions and most often stick to one style of magic that works for them. They share the warrior's frustration with injustice, and they accept positions of guardianship to help others remain safe from physical or ethereal threats. They tend to be practical and they shy away from making rash decisions. They plan for the long term, but they can be called on for refuge in states of emergency. And I know that each one of you knows people like this. Very often they are the strong rock, in the family or the group of friends that everyone knows they can rely on and lean on in times of need. So we recognize this archetype in the 3D world, and it exists in the etheric realms as well. It exists as a way to utilize magic and spiritual powers. Now, as I've said in each one of these podcasts about the archetypes, no, I don't expect any one of us to feel locked in to just one archetype or one box. We very often exhibit several of these strengths. Now we could even choose to develop all of them. So we're not limited in any way. But this exercise is more, reviewing them and thinking about them is more to help you see, hey, which ones am I leaning towards? Do I have a preference for certain styles of magic or working in the spiritual realms? What do I find myself doing most often? These kinds of things. And very often you'll find yourself in one of these archetypes or two, even three of them, as most of the time. So that's how they're helpful, is they kind of give us an idea that you might not have thought about. You may never have stepped back and said, oh, you mean I'm using my magic differently than someone else? And so this is kind of good food for thought to put together not only your own magical persona, but also to realize that others are not using magic the same way, or they're not using prayer or spiritual means the same way. And that's okay too, because they are here to fulfill different roles and different functions, and we can complement each other with our skills. So this whole exercise is to help us see those various parts too, besides just the idea that we're identifying with one of these archetypes or more than one for ourselves. So in order to kind of clarify each archetype and even bring this down to even a little bit more that we can be specific about, I have divided each archetype into three types. So for the guardian, I have chosen animal names, and the first one of the subcategories under the guardian, I have called the guardian bear. The guardian bear is a strong, consistent, and devoted protector in times of threat. This is the paladin of the magical realms, relying on sheer determination, enhanced endurance, and heightened intimidation factors. These guardians are wonderful to have around as a personal or small group protector. Their senses are attuned to possible threats to those that they guard, and they're often able to ward off any troubling nuisance with little more than a trusty, etheric growl. If a threat persists, they're adept at shielding their wards while taking more active measures to confront and remove the intruder. They prefer to work with people and animals, and they feel close to. They value their position as a guardian most if they respect and or love those that they're choosing to protect. Examples of magical icons for this style of guardian would maybe be something like a bear claw or a totem staff. So this is the very personal style of guardianship. This is the person who really cares about those he has said he would protect. And it might be your own family, or it might be a group of friends, or if you are a part of a magical team that is going to go in and do something on an etheric plane, an etheric level, you would care about your teammates, and you would be in a position there to protect them. So moving on to the second, I have the guardian wolf. The guardian wolf is a fierce, sensitive, and stealthy protector. These guardians are willing to offer their services to groups of people or animals who share common traits or who have united goals. They thrive in diverse social environments that offer lots of room for individuality and freedom. These guardians carry a natural form of pack allegiance. They're more than happy to work with other wolf guardians in order to protect large gatherings from any kind of harmful interference. They are highly perceptive and love movement and variety. Always a bit restless, they're experts at scouting the perimeters of the energetic fields formed during magical group activities. They're comfortable in a variety of settings, but they do best if they share their roles as a protector with at least one other wolf. This gives them a much needed camaraderie that sustains their enthusiasm and allows them to experience personal pleasure as they fulfill their role as guardians. And magical icons could appear as phases of the moon, blood pacts, things like this, oaths of allegiance. So the wolf is independent, but when you get two or three of these guardian wolves together and you have a large gathering that you want to protect, or perhaps you have a large network online and you're asking for protection. One way to do it would be to have this style of guardian, really examine the perimeter of your boundaries and set up things there to protect that area and keep an eye out. They're very perceptive and their senses are acute, and they have a natural telepathic link with each other oftentimes. And so one can alert the other if there's a breach or something going wrong in the system. And the third type of guardian that I have chosen to talk about is the guardian hawk. The guardian hawk is extremely perceptive and exceptionally gifted at defending large areas of land. These individuals are also outstanding protectors of expansive online networks and virtual spaces. Their gifts enable them to perceive slight changes in the atmosphere, which is so often affected by electromagnetic changes. Detail-oriented, their sharpshooter spiritual eyesight allows them to zero in on slight changes and invisible disturbances long before many of us would even be aware of any change at all. We all benefit when we invite one of these gifted guardians into our magical group to watch over our meeting space or our online network of connections. The hawk is most content balancing times of solitude with uplifting social interaction. This guardian's unique blend of energies spreads throughout the ethers and connects with important points of synergy. Their magical constructs overlay physical, virtual, and etheric grids with protective seals. They're able to alert group members to incoming threats thanks to their extra keen perception. And examples of magical icons might be a naturally found feather or a woven web or weavings of some type. So we have different ways to protect, don't we? We can focus on just one person or a few people that we care about, and our attention is going to be on them for the time that we're serving as a protector. There are new earth guardians that are called to bless and protect and watch over certain areas of land, perhaps portals from this dimension to other dimensions. Protectors have been called around the world to discover and guard these portals. So there's all different kinds of ways to operate in the field of protection. But the thing they have in common is that they are shielding us in some way. They are taking on a position of shielding, protection, and the alert system. They're very highly tied into early alerts, because oftentimes the protector, whoever is serving as the protector, is the first one that feels the bump. They feel the energies that might be trying to invade a certain space. All right, so they are very often the ones that will report to others in their group. Oh, we have a disturbance over here. Let's get over here as a group and fix this disturbance. So these are the various kinds of ways to serve as protectors, and perhaps you identify very strongly with one or all three. You just vary at however the need, whatever the need is at the time. And again, I want to say that we know that all of us overlap several of these archetypes. So you might be a protector in some circumstances, and then you might be a warrior in another time with another need. Or you might find that you're a healer. And so you find yourself very often going between healing and protecting, things like that. So we know that every way that we express ourselves is very unique to us and very individual, and in no ways restricted by one of these archetypes. But again, it is fun to identify ourselves and say, yes, that's me. That you kind of, when you hear the archetype or one or two or three of these that really strike home, we tend to know it. We tend to go, well, that's me. Or I'll hear one and I'll go, no, that's not me. I'm just not very good at that. And that's not to say we wouldn't want to develop our skills doing something else. Of course, that's possible, and we may choose to do so, but we do tend to know where our natural instincts lie and what we find ourselves doing most often. So we will return soon, and we'll be covering the very next magical archetype, and I look forward to running through all of these with you in the future. But I will go and say goodbye for now.